Georgia O'Connor here, big up Julius, Ring IQ, welcome to the relay.
Welcome to the relay. We're covering today's top boxing news. Ow!
Okay, we'll start with this. Unbeaten up-and-comer from the United Kingdom, Georgia O'Connor, posted this to her social media. A caption that reads, "I'm absolutely delighted to announce that I have signed with Conlan Boxing, Mick Conlan's promotional company, and will be taking my professional boxing career to Ireland. I'd like to say a huge thank you to Mr. Sam Jones for his amazing management and making my dream opportunity a reality. My father, John O'Connor, for training me from the age of 4 and pushing me ever since to be the best person I can be. And to the rest of my family, friends, and sponsors for their unwavering support, thank you." This more or less services as confirmation of what I already knew, that young Georgia's relationship with Sky Sports and Boxer has ended. The last I heard in reference to Georgia was that she was supposed to be fighting in a small show, not a Boxer promotion, not on Sky, a small show in May, and I can only deduce that it didn't materialize because the show doesn't show up on her BoxRec. Young Georgia, who sports a professional record of 3 wins with no losses, no draws, no knockouts, none yet. 23 years old. Being in between promoters, as you can imagine, has consumed the better portion of young Georgia's 2023. She hasn't fought yet this year. The saving grace is that she's a young fighter. She's only 23 years old, with plenty of good years ahead of her. Why didn't the people at Sky Sports and Boxer keep her on? Well, that's unclear. I mean, some of the fighters that started out on Boxer ended up going to other places, like Steven Robinson. I think he went over to Wasserman, a heavyweight who bears a striking resemblance to Ivan Drago from Rocky IV fame. Unbeaten featherweight Ebony Jones. She started out her career on Boxer, but it doesn't appear that she's with them anymore either. Added to that is young Georgia O'Connor, who has signed to Conlan Boxing, Mick Conlan's promotional company. Based on that, there's an off chance that we might still be able to see Georgia on a major platform, say BT Sport. Here in America, ESPN, on the premise that should the platform pick up Mick Conlan shows, Mick Conlan fights, she might be a part of those shows. And if ESPN picks those shows up, we might be able to see them here in America. Georgia O'Connor, when last I checked, was campaigning just north of welterweight at super welterweight, otherwise known as junior middle. But once her career gains a little bit more traction, I think she can slim down to welterweight for the right opportunity. Unless we forget, Natasha Jonas, the junior middleweight division's only unified champion. She holds 3 titles there. Her next fight is rumored to be down there at 147 for the newly vacated IBF title. If she goes down there and wins that belt, she might vacate the 3 she holds at 154, opening a door for a new set of champions to be crowned in Georgia O'Connor. That's where Georgia campaigns. It's a bit soon for world title talk, but as you can imagine, when that many titles go vacant, if they do, it does create a lot of opportunities for young fighters. A young fighter like Georgia O'Connor, who Sam Jones says will be returning to action in August of this year. Likely a takeover fight. Georgia last saw action in October of last year. If she returns to action in August of this year, that still leaves time for a fall or winter return, so she can get in at least 2 fights this year. At least 2. The year won't be a complete waste. Georgia, a fresh-faced youngster with a lot of good years ahead of her, shows ability, shows a good ceiling, and with Conlan Promotions, and Sam Jones in her corner, I think she can regain a bit of stability in her career, the stability that Boxer and Sky Sports was intended to provide. Up until recently. So, the decorum has changed a bit for Georgia, but the mission stays the same. I've no doubts she's going to want to fight for a world title somewhere down the line, and it's time to get back on track. I think she's about to. Look out for the ring return of Georgia O'Connor late summer in August. Men's super middleweight news, a continuation of a story we talked about in my previous video, how per reports, Canelo Alvarez is supposed to be fighting Jermall Charlo, who hasn't fought in 2 years. He's supposed to be fighting him next in his very next fight, and the implications of this. Right. If the story checks out, what does that mean? It would have to mean that WBC is complicit with alienating their own fighters that they rank, like Carlos Adames. Carlos is WBC interim champion, but what is it worth
if Jermall gets to fight other people with impunity.
While he's WBC interim champion and paying sanctioning fees to be interim champion, what is it worth if the WBC's not going to do their job? According to them, Jermall Charlo had a mental health crisis.
While he's looking to set up fights with other people, initially they said that Jermall would be returning this month.
You remember, a few weeks ago, the story was that Jermall would be returning in June. Well, we're in June, and it's safe to say that Jermall's not coming back, not this month.
Then we heard he had a personal confab with former 2-division champion Demetrius Andrade about setting up a fight with him.
Attention then shifted to a potential Canelo Alvarez fight, the more recent news in reference to Jermall, but either way, he's not fighting Carlos. He doesn't look to be fighting Carlos, even though it's Carlos that deserves a crack at Jermall, or at minimum, a crack at his belt. That if he's not going to come back to middleweight, and he's not going to fight that guy, then why
strip him?
What are you wasting time for? Strip him of the title. You say that he's got a mental health issue, but what's the issue exactly? Has he seen a doctor about this? Is he on any medications for his mental health crisis?
You got a lot of guys running around talking about their mental health issues. Ryan Garcia, Adrian Broner,
Jermall Charlo. Supposedly, he's being allowed to keep the title because the WBC is supporting him through these trying times and the mental health crisis that he had. But what was the crisis exactly? And is he seeing a doctor about it?
Because if he's not, then it can't be that serious. So serious that you're allowing him to hold that belt hostage for 2 years and running.
While he's in the running for a Canelo Alvarez fight, presumably up there at super middleweight. The story is it's supposed to be a defense of Canelo Alvarez's undisputed crown, his undisputed title. But to that, there has been a development. There has been a plot twist.
Let's do it in like September.
I could be ready in September.
September? Well, wait.
I prefer 68.
I've never been to 68.
Either.
Go to 60. Come on, dog.
I wish I could, man. You see these things, man? I know you ain't got these right now. You know what I'm saying?
Fucked up, nigga.
You ain't got
none
none
of
of
these.
these.
Fucked up, nigga. You got me fucked up, nigga.
You ain't got none of these right here, kid. You know what I'm saying?
How much you want to bet? Let's go to 65.
I could do 65. Sounds reasonable.
65, like no weight division. We can do 10 rounds. You want to do 10 rounds?
Yeah.
I bet you can't fuck with me in 10 rounds.
You want to do 10? We can do 10.
No belt. No belt.
We ain't got to do 12. Ain't no belt on the line. It's all good. We can do 10. We can do 10, and then they'd be like, yo, run it back. Run it back. They going to want to see us run it back, bro.
That's all you want is to keep running it back.
I'm just saying, because once I hit you with this left hand.
You're telling me that at a time when Jermall is in the running for a Canelo Alvarez fight, now is when he decides to try to have a fight with Demetrius Andrade.
What?
For less money, far less money, in September.
What?
What the hell is going on here?
We're going to take this story at face value, that Jermall is in the running for a Canelo Alvarez fight while he simultaneously tries to set up a fight with Demetrius Andrade. What the hell is this?
Does he not want to fight Canelo Alvarez? Fiscally, this makes absolutely no sense. It makes no sense because you're risking your unbeaten record. You would be risking your unbeaten record in a fight with Demetrius Andrade for far less money than you'd make fighting Canelo. So if you're gonna risk your O,
shouldn't you make the most money for it?
You're not gonna make any money fighting Demetrius Andrade. I'm sorry to say that the long-standing rivalry that they have has not made their fight bigger over time. It's not a cash fight.
It's not.
But after 2 years on the couch, you're telling me that you're gonna risk your unbeaten record against that guy.
Right.
He's had a fight in the last 12 months. You haven't.
This doesn't make any sense.
The PBC is not above sacrificing one of their fighters to Canelo Alvarez, and we know that because over a year ago, immediately after the Caleb Plant fight, Tom Brown,
that guy,
just another way of saying Al Heyman, he revealed that they offered Canelo Alvarez a multi-fight deal that included David Benavidez, Jermall Charlo, and Errol Spence Jr.
That was over a year ago. over a year later, just last week,
There were reports that Team Canelo Alvarez met up with none other than Al Heyman over there in Ohio to talk about things, potential business they might do. A couple of days later, we start hearing about a Canelo versus Charlo fight.
is that a coincidence?
Only so that later on in the week, Jermall Charlo himself can take to his social media to try to set up a fight with Demetrius via social media.
These are not serious people.
If they're serious, this is not how you go about making a fight to begin with. I don't even think Jermall Charlo has the kind of autonomy to where he can be the one that decides who he's going to fight next.
He's not his own boss.
He doesn't bankroll his own fights. PBC and Showtime pay for his fights, and they may not see the value in a Charlo versus Andrade fight when a Canelo fight is on the table. To that, David Benavidez himself reacted to that news via his Instagram story saying,
¿Por qué me tienes miedo, Canelo?
"What the fuck does that mean?"
Why are you afraid of me, Canelo?
Telling you that these are not serious people. These are not serious people. It was David Benavidez's own promoter last week that claimed he made an offer to Canelo Alvarez, and he decided to take that offer off the table before the week was even over, saying that they're moving on and they're going to fight David Morrell. So if that's what you're doing...
That's according to your promoter. Are you and your promoter having some kind of a miscommunication?
I really would prefer that Canelo Alvarez settle up with David Benavidez more so than many others, because that's a fight where no excuses can be made. No excuses for David. He's not inactive. He's not over the hill. He's fought in the last 12 months, and him and his team have had a lot to say.
Supposed to be in his prime. He's younger than Canelo.
Couldn't stop Caleb Plant, though.
That's the fight that I would prefer to see in September. But because Sampson took the offer off the table after less than a week, I got the impression these people aren't serious.
I still don't think these people are serious, irrespective of what he posts to his Instagram stories. Don't forget that David is the WBC's interim champion. Has he even petitioned the WBC to order the fight? Because if he hasn't...
It's not serious.
Carlos Adames literally went down to Cancun for the WBC's convention last year in order to petition them to order the fight between him and Jermall. And they didn't order the fight, they didn't, but that's how serious he was. He actually showed up. Has David Benavidez or anyone in his team done the same? Done the same when it comes to Canelo?
Did you guys put any pressure on Mauricio Suleiman to order that fight?
Because outside of name-dropping Canelo Alvarez in interviews and posting things to your Instagram stories, what are you actually doing?
I really wish Canelo would decide to fight this guy instead of some of these other names that are in the hat, because I'm sick of hearing about him.
Whenever the PBC is involved, it's hard to get a fix on what they're actually angling for. And finally, south of super middleweight at welterweight, Spence on Crawford. We're gonna roll him up and smoke this dude. Bit of a play on words. Bud's name, his name is Bud.
Marijuana.
Is Errol Spence implying that he regularly smokes ganja?
He's good for catchphrases and buzzwords and things like that.
The truth, man down, big fish, all that jazz.
Yeah.
Y'all go to esjthetruth.com and go buy that Pac-Man. Spence encouraged attendees and those watching the live stream on Showtime's YouTube channel, we're gonna roll him up and smoke him.
It's legal in Vegas.
We're going to roll him up and smoke this dude.
Errol Spence Jr. stated, Errol Spence Jr., a boxer puncher.
A southpaw, thought of as being a strong one, perhaps the strongest in the men's welterweight division, though not too strong to stop Mikey Garcia or even drop Mikey Garcia.
And that was before the car accident.
You will recall that Mikey Garcia took a leap of faith, a rather broad leap of faith in that fight. After defeating Robert Easter and unifying the WBC and IBF titles at lightweight, he jumped all the way up there to welterweight and took Errol Spence Jr. on. And it was thought that Errol would plow through him. He definitely beat him.
But he couldn't drop him, and he couldn't stop him.
In the post-fight press conference after that fight, Errol Spence Jr. admitted that he tried. He tried to stop Mikey Garcia on 2 occasions in the fight, but he proved to be too stubborn. So if a lightweight with no prior experience at welterweight proved too stubborn for Errol to stop, how's he going to stop Terrence Crawford?
That's the question.
Everybody knows this is the best fighter in the world, no matter who wins, insisted Errol. This is the creme de la creme right here.
Depends on who wins, really. And it depends on what else is happening at that time, because that same week, Naoya Inoue will be moving up to super bantamweight and taking on Stephen Fulton. If he wins, that will make him a 4-division, former undisputed champion.
Errol beating Terence, if he were to beat him, wouldn't match Naoya Inoue's accomplishments, but Terence beating Errol.
That might do it.
Errol Spence Jr., who ripped Crawford's undisputed run at 140, that guy Longdongo wasn't no good.
He's talking about former unified super lightweight champion Julius Longdongo of Namibia.
Errol doesn't think he was very good, but at that time he was good enough to win two world titles on the road from two champions. Unbeaten Troyanovsky in Russia with a first-round knockout, and he outboxed Ricky Burns in Ricky Burns' backyard.
According to Errol, he wasn't any good.
I feel like that guy was not that good, said Spence of Longdongo during a recent presser in New York. Regis Prograis stopped him in the first round, too. Who did that guy beat to become a world champion?
We've been all through that. No matter what's brought up to Errol, no matter what anyone says, he's going to trash Terence Crawford's resume, and his fans will reflect those sentiments. They're going to parakeet whatever he says. They've been doing that for 4 or 5 years now.
It's not about what happened in the Prograis fight or what happened to Julius after he fought Terence Crawford. It's about who he was going into the fight. And going into the fight, he was an unbeaten unified champion who won 2 alphabet titles on the road.
Don't forget Victor Postol. He was an unbeaten champion too when Terence Crawford fought him.
Are we going to talk down that guy? That guy that Danny Garcia paid to step aside at a time when Victor Postol was his mandatory challenger. Danny, in so many words, gave that guy his lunch money to go away.
Danny Garcia, the same Danny Garcia that Errol prides himself on.
Paid that guy to step aside, that's what he did, whereas Terence Crawford, afterwards, he beat that guy easy. No fuss, no muss, no handing over of any lunch money.
Now they're fighting each other.
It's not that I think Errol Spence Jr. is a bad fighter. It's that he's a simple fighter, a basic fighter, a good, strong, serviceable champion, but not the caliber of a Terence Crawford, not as nuanced. The most I see Spence has working for him is that he's a bit bigger than Terence.
But not as active. He hasn't fought in the last 12 months.
For all the praise he receives for his resume, who are we really talking about? Sean Porter? Both Terence and Errol fought Sean Porter. Who are we talking about? Kell Brook?
Terence stopped Sean Porter. You didn't.
Errol says that Brook was a broken fighter when Terence fought him, but he was a broken fighter when Errol fought him because Gennady Golovkin broke his face.
Who else?
Danny Garcia, a fighter with no solid victories, no elite level wins in the men's welterweight division. The same Danny Garcia that gave Victor Postol his lunch money.
Give me a break.
I don't see a resume that's head and shoulders above Terence's resume. What I see is a top-heavy resume with a few familiar names.
Don't confuse familiarity with ability, though.
It's the beauty of the fight, that after 4 or 5 years of bickering, the fight fans themselves will get their answer. That if you put Terence Crawford in the same ring as Errol Spence Jr., what happens and who wins? Who will be the last man standing? Who stops who?
I'm going with Terence. I've been settled on that for years.
So I do feel it behooves Terence Crawford to take this fight out of the judges' hands as to prevent any funny business and any funny-looking scorecards. The silver lining is that so far since Terence has moved up to welterweight, he has quite literally stopped every single welterweight he's fought.
Errol Spence is just another.
The same Errol Spence Jr. that was rocked by Yordenis Lugas when they fought.
The same one that knocked the mouthpiece out of his mouth. The same one that sent him careening into the ropes. If Ugas did that to you.
What will Terence do to you? We'll get our answer in July.